Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my show. Appreciate you being here, as always. First thing is first, if you enjoy the show, you love what I do, please take a second to share it to the world. That's all I'm asking for you this week. If you want to do a little bit extra, I got a Patreon. It's easy to find. I'll Call You Right Back on Instagram. You could click the link in the bio to find everything that I got going on. You can get my website there. You could find out where you could listen to the podcast. And you could just Google it on, on the old computer machine. I'll Call You Right Back podcast. It'll pop up. But what's going on? It's been an eventful couple of weeks. You know what I mean? We have had some decent weather. Just been walking the dogs, enjoying summer, enjoying time with my wife, going to get good food places. We've been to Noya's recently. We've been to Oak Hill Post recently. A lot of great restaurants. Very excited to start checking some more off the list. I am putting out a call that, I just would love to know your favorite restaurant. If you want to just slide in the DMs, I would love to know your favorite restaurant because I'm trying to add more to my list, honestly. I love all the places that I go to. I love all my go-tos, Streets on Carson, Oak Hill Post, you name it. I've talked on here tirelessly about these places, but I'm trying to add a couple more into my rotation. So if you would be so kind to send me some of your recommendations, I would love it. And while you're doing that, right now on Instagram, I have, one of them poll boxes where people could give me feedback. And I asked for some suggestions that people would like to hear on the podcast. We're getting up there, about to rip 250 episodes. And, I do a pretty good job at sourcing guests. I do a pretty good job at keeping my hand on the pulse of what's going on around here. I try to be, that's my job, right? But I'm always looking for different guests. I'm always looking for new people. So, always, if you are interested, send me an email. I'll call you right back at gmail.com. Let me know some people you'd like to hear on here. I'm trying to tell people stories, and I would like your help in doing so. But we got a great story to tell this week. This week, I sit down with a very special guest. This is a person that I can honestly say I looked up to my entire life growing up. I attribute a lot of who I am to this person. This week I sit down with my cousin and a great friend, Dacey Haughwout. Dacey has been on the podcast before, probably 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly what episode he was, but if I'll link that in the bottom here. But 5 years ago, he went across the country on his pedal bike. It was some crazy amount of miles, and it was an adventure. And as soon as he came back, we sat down and we had a whole conversation about all the wild stuff that happened. And we kind of touched on it in this episode. But if you're interested, go ahead and check back on the old ones after you check this one out. But this time, 5 years later, Dacey, let me preface this. Dacey is a ceramicist. He works with ceramic. That is his medium of choice, but he's just an all-around artist, a very, very wise soul, a great person. And his journey led him to wanting to go tour the East Coast, to go to all the ceramic studios along the way. And he just set out on a pedal bike. One day he was just like, I'm out of here, and packed up his bike and began a 60-day jaunt through the East Coast and, meandering through other places. Just touring these studios, kind of doing some workshops, just seeing different things, but basically just out into the wild riding his bike. He did over 3,000 miles in 60 days. He has everything documented, the mileage, the cost, but the main thing that he was trying to do was do it as cost efficiently as possible. We talk about my bike ride that I just completed with some of my friends to Washington, D.C., but I would call that a supported bike ride. Whenever I say supported, we were staying at hotels, we were stopping at gas stations. I was not being conservative about my money. I was just eating good. Dacey did this all completely the opposite. My man was out there just in the wild, just roughing it. He, I believe he said his daily allowance was $6 a day. So he survived these 60 days just in the wilderness, camping did not stay indoors one time, he told me he didn't even bring a flashlight with him. It was a wild time, the previous conversation, because he was like, oh yeah, I didn't use a flashlight my whole time. And I'm like, what? How do you even do that? But yeah, he said he didn't even bring a flashlight this time, which is pretty crazy. He's a wild dude. I mean, definitely a wild dude, but this journey just is, something that he set out on, and, 60 days, and he has some stories to tell. So I'm going to let him tell them. I appreciate everyone out there as usual. I feel like I can't say it enough. I appreciate everyone that listens to the podcast every week, because the numbers just keep booming up, and it means a lot to me. It really does mean a lot to me. And in this conversation, we talk about, me and Dacey talk about our hopes and dreams and like what our goals are with the art that we're trying to do. And we try to communicate that in some way, and you'll hear that. But while you're listening to this conversation, think about it. What you're listening to is literally, my art project that I am trying to do. And I'm getting all these awesome people to help me tell these stories, and something that I want to turn into something more than just a hobby as it is right now. So, think about that whenever you are following the people that you follow, whenever you're, enjoying the stuff that the people that you are fans of are putting out. Not just me if you're listening to this, but anyone that you follow that is really working at something that they love, working at a craft, working at what they are really passionate about. And just think about that whenever you're following them, and, throw a like to them, throw a share to them, kind of boost them up. People are out here pouring their heart and souls into everything. And, you don't have to do it to everyone. It's the people you love, the people that you subscribe to, the people that you enjoy, boost them up, because, we're out here getting it. We're out here really trying. We're out here trying to make it happen, and it's appreciated. It goes a long way. So without further ado, episode 247 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Dacey Haughwout.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. A little bit more official than last time.
That's great.
I appreciate it. Last time I don't even think you had headphones. It's a little bit different with the headphones, right?
Sounds really nice.
To get you tapped in. You're like, all right, it's ready to go. I appreciate you coming over today. I'm excited to talk about this adventure you went on.
Yeah. I seen you went down to Washington, D.C., and I was like, hey, how about that? That's awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a small taste of some of the stuff that you've done, but it was, you could tell why you get kind of addicted to that feeling.
Oh
of
yeah.
just
it's like you're out there.
Yeah, you're just out there. And we weren't even we weren't even roughing it. We camped a night, and then, we stayed in Airbnbs and,
nice, yeah.
and hotels, and that was cool. But I mean, you're camping out every night. I get I understand now how much different it would be if I was to be camping out every night. And it's wild. So when was the first bike trip? When was that? 3
That was
or 4?
about 5 years ago.
Already 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah. I guess so. Where'd you go for that?
That one, I went north into, up into Ohio, and then up north into South Dakota, just all the way across the country. But then I also went up into Montana.
Yeah.
So I went north, and then all the way south through Utah, and all the way through went into Colorado. I went back east into Colorado, and then I went west through Death Valley and all the way south to Mexico. So I went all over the place,
all through it, zigzagging through
zigzagging through the United States.
How long was that trip?
That one was close to 5,000 to 5,500 miles.
And that took what was that, 3 months?
That was 3 months, yeah.
And so we talked about that 5 years ago for the first time you were on this. I think you just came back, and that was wild to hear about. I mean, just riding your bike across the country to California.
Yeah.
You know, it's intense. You said in that time, I was listening back to the conversation, you said that, you know, camped out every night, didn't use a flashlight.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I forgot about it until I re-listened to it. And I was like, geez, like, yes, it's so intense to even like think about that. So 5 years later, you wanted to do another bike trip.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, I have to get out there. So I was like, I'm going to probably start a business soon. I'm going to start a business. And then I was like, well, I need to do something before I start a business because it'll be like 2 years.
Yeah,
of
just grinding.
Of grinding.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'll have to go now. So
I just like picked up and like,
yeah, I really
I guess I'm going to go ride.
Yeah, I John Cotter, he took my bike, he got it all fixed up, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm ready to go. And so I packed up and left, and I went down. I was heading to Washington, D.C. at first, just because that's a really nice trail to start on. Just 'cause it's like, all right, you have one direction, no cars, nothing like that.
Did you have a plan on like whenever you decided that you were going to go out for another trip, you had a plan on where you wanted to go?
Yeah, so this time I wanted to visit all the pottery studios along the East Coast, and then I was even going to go out west. I was going to go up to Washington State after Florida.
Yeah.
And I was looking at different pottery studios that I've heard over the years, and they really became like institutions and things like that. So I was like, I'm going to go visit them, see how they're running, and also pottery studios down along the East Coast, just because in the Carolinas, there's so many ceramic places there.
Oh, really? There's a lot down there?
Yeah, a lot down there.
And you just knew of all these ahead of time?
I knew of a lot of them, yeah. And then I contacted a number of them, and I was trying to figure out a way to like get funding, not funding, but like do like demos on my journey south to make money so that I could go out west
and keep like fueling your journey.
Exactly. So I did like it was just donations. I didn't really want to do a Kickstarter or anything like that, and I had enough money to get down to Florida already.
Yeah,
but I knew I was going to be like really, really cutting it as close as I could.
How do you even project? So I think what you were talking about in this previous conversation that we had 5 years ago, you were trying to do this on a $10 a day budget.
Yeah.
And like you said that you quickly realized that you had to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah. So that time I had to figure out what I could eat to get the calories that I needed. And I ended up eating like trail mix because there would be like 2,200 calories in a bag of trail mix for $3 or something like that. And I ended up eating like 6,000, 7,000 calories a day.
Just consuming everything.
Yeah. And then and I don't know what I was spending all my money on when I was doing that, but it went up from like $10 to $15 to $20.
Yeah, and so you had kind of like an idea of like how you were gonna like project a budget for this trip.
Yeah. And then so this time I was just like, well, I'm gonna cut back my expenses as much as I can. So and then also I was like, I'm gonna go vegetarian or vegan this time too. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy beans. So Dollar General is like the best store to go to because it has like a water fountain. So I mean, water is like $3-4 a gallon, so it's more than the fuel that you're buying to put in your car.
It's really crazy.
So I'm like, all right. So I'm filling up my water bottles at the Dollar Generals. I'm going to the restroom. I'm like, all right, get all my stuff together there. There's like beans there, and they don't cost much money at all. And so beans and rice, and then I was also eating tortilla wraps with peanut butter in it, and I was adding trail mix just to get a little bit of texture with the bread. And then I was like, oh, this trail mix is costing me too much, so I like cut out all the trail mix as well.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so I got down to like $6 a day or something like
$6 a day.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So originally when you're planning this trip, like how long did you want it to be? Like how long did you anticipate it being?
I thought I was gonna go up to Washington State. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Washington State. So I knew it was going to be close to 3 months to get down to Florida. It took me like 2.5 months, 2 months.
Yeah.
And I had a couple stops where I stopped a couple days in the same spot. And then when I got down to Florida, I was just like, well, I'm hurting. I was hurting real bad. And I didn't know
Your body was beat up?
Yeah, my body wasn't recovering really great, but I knew I could do it. And the fact that I knew I could do it, I was like, well, I don't really want to do it. It was just be like proving it to myself.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
And I wasn't really enjoying it. Florida was a beautiful state, but it really took it out of me because it was hard to have any views. Like, I love the mountains. I loved climbing the mountains. So the Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like getting up into the mountains, looking at the vistas, looking at the views. It's just the reason why I think I like doing these long distance traveling.
Little rewards, nature's rewards.
Those really beautiful sights. That's nature. Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting to hear. So as you're planning this trip and you're planning on where to go, like you had an idea on like what ceramic studios. Yeah. I feel like we should probably preface this. So you're a ceramicist. And I mean, this was the goal, right? You wanted to go tour all these ceramic studios because you're a ceramicist. Yeah. Very, very good one. But it's wild to think that like you plan this trip and you plan, I'm going to be out there for 30 days or 3 months. And, how do you plan for the food intake? Like, how do you plan your budget and how do you plan like your schedule of how many miles you want to accomplish a day? And like, did you have checkpoints that you wanted to hit?
Well, there was only one checkpoint in the beginning because a lot of studios got back to me like, well, we can probably put you up for a day or something like that, but we don't really we can't really bring you into the lesson plan. The one studio I did get to work at was All Hands Studio, and that was in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah.
And so they were really welcoming, and they let me stay there. And they actually offered to let me stay there for a couple days, but I just kind of stayed there, and they had an open studio, so I was able to demonstrate, and I was also able to kind of like teach a class, but it was more of an open studio, teaching a class, things like that.
Yeah.
And so they had like a little donation bucket as well that they allowed me to use. So I got a little bit of money through there, but a lot of it's just so hard to like develop your time frame for place to place that I wasn't able to say, hey, I'll be there if you want to do a lesson plans for like 2 days at a certain studio.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really able to work with the studios to fund my trip.
Yeah, to like make like a concrete schedule because there's so many like variables.
There was too many variables for me, at least to enjoy what I was doing. Because some days, like climbing the Great Smoky Mountains, I would only do 40 miles a day.
Yeah,
and it was a climb for like 5 hours.
Yeah,
6
a beast.
hours. I think I put in over 10 hours in 2 days of just climbing. Like just climbing, like
insane.
Just pedaling uphill,
legs just crushed, just like, oh, let's just keep going.
Just keep going. Like
I mean, like so. I feel like I wanted to talk to you about all this, especially as recent as it is as me doing my trip, just because like I got my beak wet a little bit on just like a touch of what it is. I did 350 miles, and you did what 3,300 or something like that.
Yeah, close to 300.
Yeah, that's insane. And like for me, I was like, this is a big moment in my life.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Like doing this trip, I was like, this is a huge life moment right now. And like, as I'm doing this trip and I'm like, yeah, dude, I just got 60 miles, got 80 miles. I'm watching you pedal up this mountain, just like, and like 4 hours later, just the same type of cadence. You're just like, this dude's up here just like chopping his legs up this mountain. And it gives you definitely like a different level of appreciation. Like my climb from West Newton up to Confluence is just like a relentless beast that like is beautiful, but it's like, once you get to the divide, it's all downhill, and it's just a beautiful, like nature's reward. But I feel like that I would have not, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to appreciate what you did if I didn't experience something like that, just like on a small level, a fraction of what you did. But like, how did you plan how many miles you wanted to go? Like, and I feel like we have to preface this with saying, like, I remember asking, I was like, have you been training for this trip? And you said, no. I'm gonna figure it out along the way.
I was in the middle of like, I was just like going to the gym every day, eating as much as I could, just like trying to like gain muscle mass, and I'm like 200 and something pounds. And I started off, and it's just the first couple of weeks are just so painful. And then this time, it's just like that pain just stayed with me the entire time. And I'm like, but it was like, it was just fun. I mean, I just love, and doing a schedule, I never did, that was my thing, is like, I didn't want to do a schedule. So I was literally just waking up when the sun came up. I was going to bed, or I was looking for a campsite right before the sun went down, like 2 hours before the sun went down. So I was just pedaling that entire time, just taking breaks, just doing like pain management, and also like
going at your own pace.
Yeah, just looking like and doing budgeting. Like I'm just going to do it as cheaply as possible. So that's all I was thinking about, was like, what is the caloric intake that I can get away with?
Yeah.
And then also I was like, well, what is and then like what is like the pain threshold that I can take from day to day?
Well, start me off from the beginning. So like if you didn't have any like real training on the bike, because like you going to the gym every day is not the same as sitting on the bike and just pedaling.
No,
and I got, I definitely did not do enough prep of me being in the saddle on the bike, because you're just sitting on that saddle for hours all day, and it's just like a different feeling. Don't matter how long you've been going to the gym. So without that prep, your first like, jump off point for this journey, like, was it the first day? Like how many miles do you do the first day?
Oh, I probably only did like 60 to 80 miles the first day.
And it's like, after that first day, how do you feel? And like, how do you feel within that like first week? Is it, starting to warm up a little bit?
Yeah. For some reason, I was just like, all right, this is the pain index that I'm going to be feeling for the whole time. I was just like, I kind of knew, I was like, oh, this is fine. Like I knew I could handle it. So I was just like, well, I'll just stick with this pain.
Like, where are you feeling pain at?
Well, mine would be like 60, 70 miles into the day.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, I just can't sit on the seat anymore.
Yeah.
I have to, like,
my lower back was destroyed.
Yeah.
It's like my lower back, I would like, I would do a quick burst of pedals and I would have to just like stand up.
Yeah,
and
I would
just
stand up and coast. That's what I would do. And I think that's why I like the hills, because I could go ahead and I would pedal the hill and I just stand and coast all the way down that hill. And in some of these hills, you're like coasting for 8 miles, 9 miles.
I know, it's crazy.
It's just the most beautiful thing. Yeah, especially at that confluence area.
Yeah, right at the divide.
Yeah,
I think it's like 18 miles or like 20 miles. You're pretty much going downhill. You don't have to pedal.
It's
going into Cumberland, and it's just like
Cumberland Marathon.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. It's like, and you're pedaling for 2 days up this mountain, and like that's like your reward after that. So when we got up to this Continental Divide, there was these two older guys up there, and like I thought I was about to die. I'm just pedaling. I thought I was gonna die, and these guys were like, "Oh, you made it." Now the rest of the trip is like really the reward, and I didn't really, I heard everyone say like, oh, whenever you're going down into Cumberland, you're coasting the whole way basically. And it really was just like an hour and like 20 minutes of you just like riding down a hill.
Yeah.
And you're just like looking to the left and seeing all these amazing views and like the train tracks next to you. And you're just like, it makes the pain and everything that you're doing so much more worth it.
Yeah, it's just worth it. It's just like these views are just worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you're like an old cowboy on a horse. It's like the closest you feel to being like a traveler on a horse.
That's exactly right. And then I think that was the other thing, is like going down the East Coast. I mean, the most beautiful thing I found was just the smell of the trees. Like you run into the Laurel Highlands, and the sweet smell of the Laurel Highlands, of the flowers, and then you get into like. Once I reached the Carolinas, that's when I started noticing the sweet pine smell. Yeah. And then you get into like Florida, and you have like this more of a tropical feel, and then you got this semi-permeable landscape where it has a lot of coral and then also sulfur. So you started smelling a little bit of sulfur in the Florida areas and South Georgia. So you had like all these different like smells. And I think that's what I enjoyed the most. The tree line was so high, though, that I didn't really get the views of everything once I got into like southern Georgia and Florida. Yeah,
that's interesting to hear about it. It's interesting because it's like you have all this time where you're sitting on that seat, and it's the best way to ever like experience anything is like at the pace of you being on a bike, because if you're flying in a car 70 miles per hour, you can't like retain anything. But if your average pace is 10 miles per hour, and you could like look to the left and right and like really take stuff in and like look at it, like that's like the best way you could like experience any of that.
Yeah, the landscapes, and then especially out west, like that was my first time out west, the last trip I did. So like going across these deserts and like being in the desert for days, and like
that's crazy.
The silence of some of these desert areas. I'd go like for 60 miles and never see a car, like an entire day, never see a car, never see a human, and then sometimes the wind would die out, and then so since the cars are like miles and miles away. I could literally hear like the blood moving around my ears.
Yeah.
And just, I could hear like the breath of the only thing I could hear was my breath.
Yeah. Everything else is just silent.
It was just silent. And then I think like, I love that because like you can just see your thoughts in your head. So if you're like a visual thinker, you can just see pictures in your head.
Yeah.
Or you can like make up music in your head, and it's so clear and so loud.
Yeah, because there's no distractions.
There's no distraction. So you're literally like, you're like hallucinating in your head, but it's just like perfect, beautiful. Like it's almost like a dream, like the lucid dream.
Yeah, lucid state.
But you're in a happy, conscious plane.
Yeah, present.
Oh, it's
like you're lucid, but you're also like present to where you could like, you know, it's a different level than just being in like sleeping and having a lucid dream.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's wild to think about. Now, your whole time of you being, you know, you just did 60 days. Is that what that was? 60 days around?
Yeah, I was around there, I think.
And you camped out every night?
Every night. I know. There was 2 nights where I went to family's house. I have family in North Carolina, so I slept over their houses.
There you go.
And had dinner with them. So that was really nice to meet
Nice.
family.
Probably a nice shower in there and everything.
Yeah.
Now, so like, what's your material? Like, what's your gear that you took with you? I saw you had a full size pump.
Yeah. At this time, I think that was why I had that. Where I wasn't getting the miles that I was getting before, because I was doing, once I got out west, I was doing 120 miles a day or up to 100 miles a day. And
Last trip.
Yeah. And then
you also were getting all kinds of flat tires. I remember in that conversation, you were like, I think one day you had 6 flat tires or something that.
Yeah. So they have these goat head spurs out there.
Yeah.
Seeds. And man, they just pop tires. I mean, there's no way to stop them. So finally I got like marathon tires with like a hard rubber insole, and then also like an inner tube that was like extra thick with slime in it. So that cut me down to like 0 flat tires.
Yeah.
This time, no flat tires, but
at all.
Well, yeah, some days.
But not like anything crazy.
No,
but is that why you took like a full size pump? Because
because I thought I was going to have to change my tire like 1,000 times. Yeah. And so that I kind of got the tires dialed in where I was like, it's okay. I wasn't losing my mind, because I was losing my mind like in 120 degrees or like in 110 degrees in the desert trying to change a tire, and you're just sweating and you're no shade, and you're like, and you start like, you're like, am I going to get heat?
Yeah.
Am I going to heat? And
yeah, for sure. Am I going to be able to make it to the next spot?
Yeah, that was my thing, is I was really scared of just like dying out in the desert
and being nowhere and like having no one around you. Just in the middle of nowhere. Ain't seeing people for 8 hours.
Yeah. So this time it was, I didn't have that fear.
What's like your mindset as far as like what you want to take on this journey? Because obviously, like, you know, if you're going and you're like going for distances, like you have a conscious mindset of weight that you want to have.
Yeah.
But you also want to have a conscious mindset of like not being screwed out there in the wild without gear that you need.
That's a good point, because this time I packed for winter weather, because I started out so early in the spring because I wanted to get over into Washington State like during the summer, because in Washington sometimes it just snows on those mountains like all year long almost. So I wanted to get there way before fall.
That you had to worry about that.
Yeah, so I packed for winter weather, so I had enough stuff to where I could be like below freezing and still comfortable at night.
Yeah.
And biking in like below freezing temperatures. But I didn't really make it out there. And I knew I think the other thing that the reason why I didn't do it was just because I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, all right. And I wasn't really feeling like other people were like really, really joining the journey, because I was like, oh, this is going to be pretty epic. And I was like, well, and then I think I was doing it for other people in a way. And then it wasn't really, and I was like, well, they're not really enjoying it too much, so I should be doing this for myself. So if I'm in this much pain, and I'm like, I might as well do this at another time. So there might be like another time, another year, where I'm gonna be like, well, I'm gonna go out west again, or I'm gonna go enjoy like the California coastline, or
where you could actually enjoy your
just
voyage.
Enjoy a voyage instead of having like this big epic tale
where you feel like you have to accomplish something under some sort of like constraints, and, you know, put pressure on yourself. It almost takes away from the beauty of the trip.
Yeah, exactly. And
you know, so like you go on this trip, and, you know, you have did you have an idea of how many miles you wanted to hit a day, or were you kind of just wanted to feel it out and just see how you were doing?
I wanted to go as far as I could go. So in the beginning, I was like, well, 60 miles is good. 60, 70 miles is good. And then it just kept staying at 60, 70 miles. And I'm like, oh, I'm not like gaining miles here. And I think it was mainly just landscapes, like going into the Smoky Mountains or, I think just climbing days and days, like 10 miles if you're climbing for 10 miles a day.
Yeah, it takes a toll.
Yeah, so you're not going to get that many miles. It's just not going to happen unless if you're packed for like a racing or like bike camping where they're like packed as light as they can.
Yeah, efficient.
They're doing like 200 miles a day or something like that.
Something insane.
Yeah.
Now you have, as far as like your gears, what you packed, you had a tent. And like, how many pairs of clothes, like kind of break that down.
Yeah. So I had 3 shirts, like 3 pairs of underwear, 3 pairs of socks. And then I had
3 of each.
Yeah, 3 of each.
I took 8. I took like 8.
Oh, gosh.
And I was just like, 2 days into it, and I'm like, what are you doing with all this stuff? And luckily, when we got to Cumberland, I had another buddy that met us and went the rest of the CNO to DC because he couldn't do the full days. And I just like offloaded all my shit that was just like extra.
I bet it felt great.
Oh, I mean, mine was still so heavy. It was my bike was still so heavy, but I was just like, I have no idea why I brought 7 shirts. I wore just the same bibs. I had 2 different pair of bibs and would just switch them out. But it's now. I mean, after you do it the first time, you definitely have like an idea of what
you need.
Yeah, of what you need and what you don't need more than anything.
And this time, I didn't. I feel like last time because out in the desert, your clothes would just dry, so you could literally clean your shirt in the sink with soap at like a gas station or something like that.
Yeah,
just clean it in there, just wash it up, and then rinse it out, wring it out, and put it right back on.
And you're dry.
Within 20 minutes, you're dry, and you have a clean shirt. Your gear is clean, so all you need is like 1 pair or 2 pairs of clothes. This time on the East Coast, it was raining like every single day.
Oh my goodness!
So just the wet weather, and then also you just don't dry out because there's a lot of humidity.
Yeah.
So like one day I just stayed in a tent all day because it was pouring rain. I mean, just pouring where I was like, well, cars aren't going to be able to see me.
Yeah.
So I just stayed in a tent all day, and at that time I was like ran out of food. So I'm like, I stayed for a day in a tent without any food. I'm like, man, I am hungry. so the next day I'm like feeling like, ooh, I feel my ribs. Like, so,
you're gauging yourself that.
Yeah, I was gauging like how much energy I had on me.
Well, how much food were you like how much food were you keeping on your person? And how much water were you keeping on your person?
Yeah, so I went heavy on water. I had a gallon, like a little over a gallon of water on me.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
at all times. And then it's just if I got stuck, I knew I would be able to survive for a day.
Yeah, with water for sure. Water,
yeah, and then food. I always had a jar of peanut butter, and man, a jar of peanut butter will last. I mean, you'll keep going on a jar of peanut butter for days and days. Yeah, it's impressive how much calories are in a jar of peanut butter.
Did you cook anything on a stove?
No hot meals the entire time except for when I visited family.
Yeah,
I was just eating beans out of a can.
Wow,
or like refried beans out of a can, like without fat-free refried beans, and I was just like. Yeah, cold meals every day. And I think that was another thing that I was like, I miss food.
Different tastes.
Yeah, all I was doing was dreaming about like flavors of food. Like, oh, that would be so good. And
like, how far in do you get like how far in does it start setting in where you're like, metabolism is just like, because I mean, 3 days in, I was just eating and immediately being hungry.
Yeah.
So it's like, when does your metabolism kick into that overdrive where no matter what, you're just burning energy?
Yeah. So I noticed that I would be the same way where I was like eat and eat and eat, and then I was like I wasn't feeling any energy from the food. So like I think about a month in, I'm like, oh, I don't have to eat as much as I'm eating and still get like the miles that I'm getting. So my body's actually becoming more proficient at burning these calories. So I actually like reduced my calorie intake, and then I changed my diet a little bit. Where I was just like, I just ate the calories that I needed so I could feel like, and then that's when I kind of like, I was on like a plateau of just like, all right, it feels good. Like I can judge like how much my body is intaking. I could feel the fat content build up all around my body at night.
Yeah.
And then in the morning I would eat a little bit, and I knew exactly like how much fat like my body would
Just
gain.
by the feel.
Just the feel. Yeah. So I could feel like my organs, like the tightness of the volume of the inside of my body cavities, where I was like, all right, I have this much fat around my organs, and then you just burn it off all day.
So you would monitor how much food you were eating, and you would know, like, I would need X amount to feel a decent feeling where I could keep, working at a decent pace.
At a decent pace the entire day. Yeah. So it was cool. It was cool to have that feeling of like, oh, my body is like, you could just feel everything in your body. Like,
you're so in tune.
Yeah.
Wow.
And your breathing pattern, like climbing the hills, you're just like, all right. And it was like, so when I met, like pain, it wasn't really like pain. It was just like a little bit of discomfort.
Yeah, discomfort throughout your body that you could understand.
Yeah, so it was managing discomfort, or managing, like if you did get like an injury, it was just like managing that injury for days and days and days until it healed, or managing that pain day after day, or managing that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
because you need to manage all that, because like, as I'm thinking of it going down like the CNO, since it's kind of rough, I was like, you got to pay attention, because if I fall and like, hurt my leg or something like that, I'm not gonna be able to finish this. And like, granted, mine was only a few days. You're trying to do this, a couple months, few months. So it's feeling. Like, so you're trying to like make sure that you could stay, you want to be a working machine still. Like you got to be able to like work, because if your body's not working, you can't finish it.
Exactly.
That's it's crazy. Did you have any like luxuries that you brought with you? I saw you had a notebook.
Yeah, I was trying to write the whole time. Some of those views that you get, and then you get inspired by like little wordages that I usually talk to myself when I was riding my bike. So I'm just talking to myself. Oh, that's a beautiful like little passage. That's a little explanation of like how you feel, or how like this visual like takes place.
Yeah, how that's processed in that moment.
Yeah, how that's so the words were like, so I remember having that a lot last time, and then this time I was like, well, I better write it down. So I'd take a notebook and I'd write those little things down and try to keep at least that in my memory.
Yeah,
because I noticed like lately it's just more of these shadows of memories of like what happened. So it's like almost like, oh yeah, that happened. So it's like almost like vignettes, like almost like a Forrest Gump movie of like, oh, this scene happened. Oh, this scene happened.
Yeah, for real.
Just on and on and on. And you have these little vignettes where you're like, all right, this, and this.
Yeah, I feel like that's like, as you get older, that's how memories are retained in your mind.
Yeah.
Like significance, like whether it be something so small that's significant to you, it's like you remember that, like, that set almost, where that is, that setting in that moment. But it's wild to think, because you were saying that, like, you were stuck in a tent all day one day. So it's like, what are you doing on your downtime besides? I mean, obviously you're just crushed and you're just sleeping. Yeah. But if you're sitting in the day, it's like, how do you, what are you doing for yourself in that whenever you're just sitting in a tent for all day? If it's pouring down rain.
I was stretching out. I was just relaxing. Yeah, stretching, laying down.
Were you listening to music at all during this?
No, I didn't listen to any music. I like not having music on in the car anywhere. Like, I don't like extra noises anywhere.
I brought a Bluetooth speaker and I didn't listen to it. Yeah. It was the last 10 miles going into DC, because it was literally the worst part of the entire trail.
Yeah,
the last 10 miles, it's like a cheese grater.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I just put on a little bit of music then. But you think, like, I had so many anticipations on like what my trip was going to be, and like, oh, I'm going to have music playing. It's going to be so nice. But it was really just like me tapping in, and like what you said, it's like, you're just in your mind, and you're present in your mind, and you just start thinking of things where it's like, things when you're a kid, things in your present life, things in your past. And it's wild that it's almost like therapy, because you're there. You can't really go anywhere else. You can try to, but it's almost like the pain and like you counting down the miles like brings you back.
It really does. I really like that. I like going through like an encyclopedia of like what everything your mind is like running through, or like anything it could be running through. It'll go through your mind, and you visualize it. You run through it. You can
weird shit like that you don't expect to remember.
Yeah, and it's vivid too. It's perfectly vivid memories.
Yeah,
and you're like, and then I noticed that a lot. This time, I don't think I ran through all of them. So coming back, I feel fine. Like I feel like a normal human being, where I'm like, all right, day-to-day life is normal.
Yeah.
Last time, I think I ran through them my
entire life.
Yeah, I ran through my entire encyclopedia. So when I came back, I'm just like, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to, I had a hard time.
Sensory overload?
Yeah, I had a hard time assimilating. Exactly. Yeah, so everything was a sensory overload. It was like I was just being bombarded with like any little thing. I'm like, I can't handle this. I need to be back out in the desert.
Yeah, because I mean, you're on a bike, and you know there really wasn't a lot of people while we were riding. So it's like you're on this bike, and it's just like you, and like I had someone with me, so it was like it was cool in that regard. But even someone with me, we're not talking the entire time. So there's 4 hours passing where we're just like, you know, pumping up this hill, and you don't have any distractions. You don't have any outside, you know, noises, outside things. You're just listening to the earth. You know, it really is so crazy. And, you know, parts get so loud. Like whenever you're going up around Ohiopao and you hear that water ripping, and it's just like, you know, it's such a crazy thing because you're like, am I tripping right now? Because like you almost like lose where you are.
That was one thing. I was sleeping by a brook or a small stream. And I heard voices, so I'm like, oh, that's why they call it a babbling brook. They're just talking the whole time.
I mean, you had to be cool. Like, so like where you're sleeping at, are you sleeping in like, you know, you're obviously not sleeping in all campsites and everything. You're just like ducking around and finding places to go, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any weird experiences? Last time you said there was a bear that was like right next to you.
Yeah, bear came into camp last time. This time, a bunch of deer, like you'd hear snorting. I'd be mad because I would always pick their camping spots because they had some nice spots.
Yeah, they're good at picking it out.
So
nice small mossy patch.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd always be sleeping at night, and you just hear them snorting and going. One night, I think I heard a wild pig or wild boar or something like that in Florida.
Wow.
And it was sniffing. Like I was like, what in the world could that be?
Yeah.
I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
And it wasn't reacting at all. It was just sniffing around, and it must have been a boar. I think it was a boar. It wouldn't have been a dog because it would have reacted. But it was like, and then so a bunch of wild deer. No, I mean
nothing too crazy.
Nothing crazy this time.
What about like as far as like any moments where you didn't have, you know, food or water? I mean, like the water you said you
water.
had.
I was good. There was not a time where I ran out of water, so I was never scared of running.
It was weird because down the CNO, you know, we were hearing all this stuff from people. They were like, "There's not any water on there that's potable," and I'm reading all these other things, and people were like, yeah, there's taps at every campsite down there. But we heard that like every week they test the water there, and they'll put a sign that says if it's potable or not.
Oh, okay, nice.
And none of the water on the entire CNO was able to be used.
Gosh, yeah.
So there was only one, and it was right before you got into DC. But it was such like a wild experience, like trying to go, like hop to different towns and like making sure like, oh, we need to have enough to be able to have here. Because I definitely, next time if I ever do anything like that, I'll definitely have like a side, you know, like a liter container that's like extra, because I had 2 bottles and I was just like ripping through it.
Oh wow, yeah,
ripping through it. Like I had a big Nalgene and another bigger squirt bottle, and it was just nowhere near enough.
Yeah,
and you would just have to refill it all the time. But as you're going on, like I went on like well beaten paths. Like you're going, the trail that you were on is not really necessarily like a carved path for you to ride a bike on, right? You're just on a road.
Yeah, I was always on a road. There was only a couple times, like going through the Laurel Highlands, I had to go up this, like, they were doing like a logging road almost, where it was like the rocks on it. I had to just push my bike up this mountain for like all day. Yeah. And I was like, oh crap, I took the wrong path this time. So it was a good 4 or 5 hours of just like pulling my bike up a mountain.
Yeah.
To get it to the crest, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get to a road when I get up to the top. But meanwhile, it's an unpaved road with a
you can't even use it on.
So I'm like pushing it along that road as well for the whole day. So I'm like, oh gosh, push my bike for a whole day, and that was a rough one. And then some days, like in Florida, you get onto a sand road, and so it's not a dirt road anymore. It's sand. So you can't ride on sand.
You can't pedal on that either.
So I'm pushing it along there, and it's sinking in the sand, and I'm pulling it. And it's like a 90-pound bike or something like that. So you're pulling 90 pounds for like a day or not.
What kind of bike are you on?
This time it wasn't that bad, but it was it's a tri-cross. So it's a part like road bike and part mountain bike.
Like a hybrid, yeah.
It's a hybrid, yeah.
Did you like what you had?
I would change it up. But I like it. I mean, it worked. I mean, it never failed. So
well, that's great that it didn't fail.
Exactly. I was pushing it hard and it never failed. So it's a good bike.
What would you prefer if you had your choice?
I'd probably get something like a heavier hybrid, or it was like a gravel bike.
Yeah, like a gravel bike.
Yeah, but they have touring. They've made like leaps and bounds with like the engineering of like different
the ergonomics of it,
different categories of bikes, and they have nice touring bikes that are like gravel bikes, but they're a little bit stretched out for the amount of weight that you'll have on the frame, so the wheel's a little bit farther out in front. Yeah, and so it just has a longer body on it,
a little bit more stability,
a lot of stability underneath pressure. In fact, if you don't have weight on the bike frame, it feels weird. So it only feels right when you have a lot of weight on the bike itself. Yeah. So, yeah, and then I would probably change up my riding styles as well, where I'm doing more miles a day at a lower or at a higher cadence. Because this time I was grinding because I had so much weight and my gear ratio was like a little bit higher. So I had too much weight for my gear ratio. So I'm like, I needed to do, I think you're supposed to stay around like 80 or RPMs to 100 when you're pedaling, so it feels good and your legs never really get that strain where it's like
pushing
going to be an injury. Yeah, but I was probably pushing like 50 40, 50 revolutions. I'm like pushing up these hills, pushing the whole time.
Yeah, my whole time, like the guy that I was riding with, he is, more of a functional biker. Like he's trying to conserve any of his energy. He's using like the right cadence you should use. Yeah. And I just rode like a jackass. Like I would have it at the hardest and I would just like pedal a bunch and coast, pedal a bunch and coast.
Yeah, I was doing mine all wrong.
We're sitting down there and he goes, that, he was like, you do whatever you want, but it seems kind of like inefficient what you're doing. And I was like, oh, it is for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It just is not comfortable for me to like do as many RPMs because it feels like it's like not getting, I don't know how to explain it. I needed to have a little bit of resistance while I'm pushing. It was easier for me to do that.
Yeah. And I actually had the ratio or the gear ratio on mine changed up a little bit before this trip. So I wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but I needed a lot of resistance because I wanted to be able to stand up at the end of the day whenever I'm on the bike for 6-8 hours a day.
Yeah, and pedal while standing.
Get that last 2 hours of the day or the daylight. I wanted to be able to stand at the end of the day and just push while standing because you just can't sit anymore. It's just too painful.
I know, it just sucked.
Yeah. So I wanted to be able to stand. So that was another reason why I had that. The gear ratio was a little bit different.
What was, so you said that your bike was so heavy, but it's like, what was the majority of the weight from, like, on your bike?
Winter wear, so a large jacket, the waterproof jacket stored, and I didn't use once, so I didn't even need it. But my problem was, again, if it got below zero, I wanted to have it.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, so I kept it with me. I kept all really heavy.
The last conversation, you said that at one point you went up this mountain and it just like, you didn't anticipate it, but it was just snowing and you were like, I thought I was going to freeze to death.
Yeah. So when I went onto the Grand Canyon, that's exactly what happened. I climbed up onto the mountain. It's the north face of Grand Canyon, so you're going up like 6,000, 8,000 feet or something like that to the rim, and then and you see this watchtower. I went up to the watchtower and it starts hailing, just a little bit of like
the watchtower.
And so I'm climbing up the watchtower, and I'm like, well, it'll let up. It's kind of desert. It's been warm every day. But meanwhile, I'm like 6,000, 8,000 feet up, so it's not going to get warm. I didn't know it was not going to get warm. In fact, it started hailing, and then it started snowing like crazy. And the guy was like, well, you might not want to stay up here because sometimes we'll get like 10 feet of snow out of nowhere.
Jesus.
And you might get stuck. And I was like, all right. But so I just kept on going a little bit, but the problem was that I got wet. I got soaked. Yeah. And then it started snowing, and then the temperature dropped. So I was like hypothermic. I wasn't hypothermic. Well, maybe I was, but I was cold, and that was painful.
Yeah. So it was better to have all your stuff this time around.
That's why I was like, I'm going to have all my stuff ready, all my ducks in a row, just in case if something happens. But meanwhile, I'm going out to Florida, and it's like,
what was the weather like? Yeah, it had to be crazy down there, right?
It wasn't. It was 90 some days. Some days 97. It was actually warmer in Pennsylvania for a period of time than it was down in Florida when I was down there. Yeah. So it was beautiful. It was actually, I had really good weather the entire time, except for the rain. Yeah.
Yeah, besides that.
Yeah.
That's not bad. So where are you finding places to camp? Just like random?
Yeah,
you know?
random places. I like look for like 2 hours before dark. I start looking along the sides of the road. Like, all right, that's a good place. Like, that's nobody will see me there. I mean, like, you'll find beautiful camping spots anywhere, just out in the middle of nowhere. And then you're like, all right, I need to be. So I would go into cities. That was another thing I was doing. I was going into cities, looking at their ceramic studios, and also just the layout of the city.
Yeah.
So like, man, like going into like I went into Getty. So I was going to Washington D.C. Decided to go up to Gettysburg. Went to Harrisburg. Went to Philadelphia. Going through Philadelphia, I'm like, man, the city's rough.
Yeah.
And then so I went north up into New York. I was like, oh, this is a pretty nice city. So I'm like looking at, and I'm like looking at kind of everything like that. And I was like, well, I'll give Philadelphia another chance. So I like come back right down through Philadelphia. And I was like, oh, it was. So like, it just depends on where you were in the city. Like,
yeah.
And you're like, some days where you're like, oh, I just can't stop. Like, it would be bad if something happened and I got stuck in this area.
Yeah.
And then some days I'm like, all right. So went through Philadelphia again, went south, in like Virginia area, and then so I was just looking for studios. Visited Dallas's Wooten studio. He just opened up a studio in New Jersey, right beside, like 20 minutes drive from New York City, and it's like, or maybe an hour. It might have been an hour outside of New York. But so I'm just looking at all these cities and how they're put together, and like just like the economic torture that like the United States is going through. It's like,
yeah, you're seeing it from all different areas and all different, like, demographics of people.
So I was getting really interested in that type of thing, and just looking at neighborhoods and looking at like just like how everything was put together. And it's just a strange world.
Yeah, especially, it's a strange time to be alive right now, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, making your way around these places, and you're on this journey, and like you're figuring stuff out. Like, these studios that you went to.
Yeah.
Did you sway from this plan? Like that you had.
Yeah. Oh, and I kept on going to the studios, and I kind of find. Like the last time I did this, I was visiting colleges because I wanted to go for like an MFA, or Master's in Fine Arts through a ceramics. And then, so this time I was like, well, I'll go through the private sector, where I was like, I'll go through different ceramic studios, but some of them were nonprofits, where it's like, so I didn't really stray from that plan. I kept on visiting studios, but I didn't really post all of the ones that I visited.
Yeah.
And then I was also looking at like clay supplies, or like where they were getting their clay. So like
what was the goal of going to all these different studios?
The goal was to kind of get my name out there in a way, to get like social media following.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And then it was kind of to prove what I already knew, that it's like you can't get funded for intellectual thoughts. Like I used to be like a production potter, where I would make like 10,000 of the same pot. So I would be at a pottery wheel for 7 years or 10 years, making the same shape,
same design,
and I was in like a dark warehouse. So like that was kind of my first. When I finished with that job, I was like, well, I'm going to go explore the country. I'm going to go see what there is to see. And that was like the first time I went out west. So I got to see the landscapes and like just different types of lifestyles. So it was like, I felt like I was in a cave for like 7 years, throwing the same pot over and over and over again. So just seeing that variety.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so I was like, I'll go for my MFA and start making different types of material, different types of pottery, because I didn't want to make the same thing. But it seems like I wanted to make a piece of work that wasn't tangible. It was kind of like a conceptual piece of like, this is going to be like this avant-garde movement where you don't have to make anything, but you'll get paid for what you love to do.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants a knick-knack. Everybody wants a sticker. Everybody wants a 5-cent thing.
Material piece.
Yeah, they want a
tangible
material,
thing.
Yeah. So I was like, well, can I do a trip or like an art piece that has nothing? I'm literally giving people that donated to me nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like, can I suffice on that? And it's like, no, you can't. Like, so I kind of proved to myself that it was like, no, just make knickknacks, make tic tacs, sell them on the street. Like, so I'm like, all right. So that's how it was like. This is how I'm like justifying myself making production pottery again, where I'm going to be like, all right, I can make these pieces again with knowing full well that I can't make a living any other way in the ceramics world at the place where I am now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, so this justifies it because like within the ceramics community, they're having difficulty finding like fluxing agents. They're moving like from certain fluxing agents within the glazes into like a boron and like different materials because a lot of these larger companies have bought up all the mines in the United States for some of the material purposes.
Yeah.
So that was another thing where I'm like, well, I don't want to use material resources to make my artwork, so I'm going to do like, so this was kind of like an avant-garde art piece, and all I had to get, but I kind of knew that from the beginning. So it was kind of, maybe I just like kind of proved to myself, and it wasn't a real experiment. And also within art framework, it's like, oh, you just have to be like ruthless at self-promoting from the beginning. It's all about promotion. It's all about how many eyes you can get on you.
It's the hardest thing though, especially for someone who doesn't want to like.
That wasn't even my purpose. That's not even my goal.
It's like, and I feel like, I know you because, we're family and like, I understand that, but it's like, I hate the social media end of everything. I hate posting shit on there. Yeah. I hate having to be attached to it. And I hate having to always like, be part of this algorithm because like now, but like before all this shit started happening, there was an opportunity to be genuine and post the things that you wanted to post that you loved because, your social media page was a way to showcase what you wanted people to see you as. But now with the algorithm and with everything that's going on, you're just part of this system that you have to keep, playing into to be able to be rewarded by being, put in front of people. It's like the game is rigged now. And that's what's so weird.
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game, but it's so weird because you're saying, you did this as an avant-garde art piece where like you wanted to be able to like, fund yourself doing something that you enjoy. Yeah. That's the goal of everyone's life. That's what I'm trying. I guess you can call this podcast an avant-garde art piece. Yeah. But the thing is people are supporting these all the time. If you look at, people just you look at like YouTube, you're doing things for yourself on there and people support you in that way because they kind of live vicariously through you. But the beauty of all this and the struggle with all of it is how to showcase it in the correct way to gain people's eyes and to make them want to, you got to get your hooks in them, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like, my whole thing was like not doing that. My whole thing was like, I know how to do it. Like, it's like,
well, it's hard for you to do it. If you're on a bike trip, it's like you don't have someone like, you don't have someone standing right next to you holding a camera the whole time because like.
Yeah, that wasn't my goal. It's like, I've studied, I can study human psychology where it's like neon colors, vibrancy, excitement, drama. It's like, it's almost as if we had to push to human folly or human sin. Like, what do they call those? Like the 7 deadly sins or whatever. Yeah. It's like the more you push into that, the more popular you're going to become and the more attention you'll grab. Yeah. And then so the more funding and the more chances you'll have at making money. So it was like, I kind of wanted to make this like the last piece of like without falling into. Yeah,
without conforming into.
Exactly, and trying to get the numbers, yeah. And then so I was like, well, and it's kind of like, it was kind of like proof to myself that like, oh no, we're playing in a system that's rather easy to manipulate people's consciousness and like how to draw their attention. Yeah. And I knew that all along, but the whole time I'm trying not to push that.
Yeah,
agenda.
that sort of agenda where it's like, oh well, I donate if you want me to keep doing this, and like I need you to donate to be able to do this.
Yeah, and
to do this journey.
So I didn't really push that aspect of it in a way. It was kind of like open in a way.
Yeah, you wanted to have it. You wanted to give opportunities.
Yeah, to do it.
Yeah,
but I definitely didn't want to advertise it as that.
Yeah, as self-promotion of like, please donate to my journey, but basically, donate to my vacation, just in some way. Exactly. And it's hard to ever put a value on your experiences, because it's like you're experiencing it, not other people other people are not experiencing it. Like I made this Patreon for this podcast because it's like I do this and it takes a lot of time, and it's like I have so many people that they'll ask, like, how are you able to how can we support you? And it's like, I put that up there as an opportunity. I hate, I hate like promoting it. I don't want to be like, please, donate money to this, because it's like, it's like I'm doing this podcast. It's like, no one asked me to do this. That's why you can't expect people to do it. You just have to give people opportunities. And I feel like the beauty in it all is where you just keep like persevering through it. And then that's whenever it starts to catch on. The only problem with it all is we live in this world where there's so much saturation. There's a million podcasts. Yeah. There's a million people like you that are, their journey is to go on a bicycle across the world. Yeah. And it's like, how do you, the thing that makes people realize, as the cream rises to the top, is like how to display it in your own unique way.
Yeah. And I think that's where in college now, it seems like, well, all right, just like start teaching social media presence, and like, how can you get the numbers up? How do you do that? It's like, don't even worry about, the quality of a product. Like before this, I was doing gig work where I was doing like housework and things like that to make money to survive. And then I was kind of doing, for that 5-year period where I stopped doing production pottery and also teaching pottery, I would do like construction work. So I was like, all right, so I'll get good at construction work. And I'm like, I'm okay at construction work. I can do it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, mainly when you're doing construction work, you're doing it for people that already have that financial advantage already. So
working for other people.
Yeah, you're working for other people. And you're like, well, what? Like, I'm just watching like all the data and the numbers running down through my head. And I'm like, all right, none of these numbers are like matching up. So, so I'm like, all right. So I was like, I might as well do work for myself, because a lot of it was like, I'll do work for people that are in industries where it's entertainment industry, or it'll be people that are in the medical setting. And you're like, in the medical setting, like they're literally like putting people, they're like charging people to keep their health, to keep them alive. And you're like extravagant fees. So if you're working for like a medical professional, you're like, all right, so you're actually keeping people, you're making them pay for their health in a way. And I was like, I don't feel I'm just like, I'm going like the most negative direction in my thoughts. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to relax. I'm going to get to make what I want, and then like try to sell it in a way that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, you feel good at doing it. You feel like, you're not trying to dupe people or like take advantage of someone's, good nature or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that's what the goal is like find a way to do what you love, and then you find a way how to get paid for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is, right? What is your goal with pottery and all this stuff? I mean, like went on this journey, and like I know that like you have like a wheel at your house and you do this, but like what's your overall goal with this?
Yeah, so that was my thing. It's like, well, all right, I really think I'm going to get into knickknacks, like just like kawaii, like cute little things that'll sell on the internet that I can get a lot of following, like to make it neon. Just
that's what it is. You find one clever thing and people share it a million times.
That was the other thing, is like doing a social media post. It's like, oh, don't try to get the audience. Like, don't go out into the real world and try to get an audience on Instagram. Literally work for the audience that's already on the platform. Do not try to gather another audience. So you work for the audience that's already on that platform, because if you're trying to get new people on that platform, it's a waste of your money. It's a waste of
time and effort.
Yeah. So literally find your audience, figure out exactly what they like. It's like it's all and then so like I'm like, oh, I mean, it's like I already know all stuff. So it's like, all right, well, this is easy enough to complete. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just do it. It's like, all right.
What's it hurt, just to try that out?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, but I mean, for some reason, I like that struggle. I like that. For some reason, I think there's like an authenticity to humility. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's what keeps people, what's the best way to describe it? It's like you having that humility to not want to, champion yourself and spearhead yourself is what keeps it from feeling gross almost. I hate it. I don't want to be, I don't want to show up to every event and be like, yo, listen to my podcast. I love that. It's like, I feel gross whenever that happens. Like I feel gross almost whenever I'm out places and people ask me about it. And it's like, yeah, I love talking about it. Like if you're a fan of it and you enjoy what I'm doing, like I talk about it, but it's like, I don't ever want to be that guy that's like beating people over the head with it.
Yeah.
I just want to like create something. And if people love it, I want them to like, come to it. And, that's not necessarily the smartest business way to think about it. And that's what the problem is. It's like, we're just not smart business people because, I guess we have humility. It's like, I'm not gonna, I don't know. It's like the shit where people are like buying followers and like paying for the promoted posts. And I know it's the right way to do it.
It's the right way to do it.
My wife is like, get on TikTok. You got to get on TikTok and just be doing this shit. And it's like, I feel gross doing it. And I can't push myself to do it. But now I start to realize that like, I'm working hard at this and it ain't working. I put 5 years of hard work into doing this stuff. And it's like, now I'm going to start have to play in this game.
Yeah. I mean, this trip was me just saying, oh, you're not getting like, they're not picking up people that are
the good-hearted people.
They're not going to pick them up. You just have to.
Nice guys finish last.
Always
in the business world.
It's just true. And I'm just like, well, all right. Well, I got the message.
Yeah, I mean, like, but that's. I mean, it teaches lessons beyond measure with what you do. I'm sure, with your journey and like seeing with what you are. It's like, the time you spend on there. It's like you learn these lessons, whether they are told to you directly or whether you just come to this conclusion in your mind by thinking at it.
I wanted to experience it. I wanted to test it out. It was kind of like going through an algorithm and saying, oh no, this is the algorithm that's out there. And then like, do you want to play by it or not? I was like, well, maybe I'll become a fireman. Maybe I'll become, that's why I tried out like construction work where I was like, oh, I'm going to fix up somebody's house and they can live in a comfortable spot. But I was like, well, people that really need it are not like paying for construction work to help out with their house.
It's like the only person you're working on is like the rich people that are like flipping all these houses, charging crazy rent.
Yeah, the only way is a dog-eat-dog world, and it's like, all right, just
that's what it is.
Rise to the top. Just like, all right, let's play this computer program and let's get to the top.
Yeah, it's like when you're on a trip, and you're kind of shut off. And you're doing this like, this kind of journey where you're like searching inside yourself, but this world that we're in is like social media based. It's like, how much of that is in the front of your mind while you're riding? Yeah.
So that was my problem. I think that's why I quit. I think that's why I didn't just let go. Cause this was me trying to prove a point. And I think I proved it. Like, how like, where you're like, if you think of something, like it kind of comes true in a way for yourself. So, and I could have made that trip. I could have made it to Washington easily and I could have enjoyed myself the entire time, but it was kind of like an endurance run of like, how much can I stand the lack of funding?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even have healthcare during the entire ride.
Yeah.
So I'm not paying for healthcare. I'm not paying for like an apartment or anything like that. I'm sleeping out on the ground. I'm eating cans of beans. I'm like the homeless of the homeless.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I have good equipment and I'm making it as far as I can on this good equipment. But once the good equipment breaks down, it's over.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a homeless guy.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing. Like I have a good family and like good friends where.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right. Yeah.
It's like some level of security.
Yeah, you can come back. You can sleep here. You can sleep on. Yeah. So,
but you could get to that point.
Oh yeah,
to an extent.
You'd just be out on the street.
Yeah,
no problem. You just be out on the street, and I was like, oh no, I'm out on the street.
What was the ending total that you spent out of 60 days?
60 days. I think I wrote it down. It's on my Instagram.
What was it, like $650 or
yeah,
something?
Yeah. It was like $300 a month or something.
Yeah,
like
that's outrageous.
So, but that was with like other equipment as well, like equipment like tires and things like that, and inner tubes. And things like that, yeah.
Did anything else, like, did you have any other problems out there, like any like big like health problems or anything like that?
Surprisingly, no.
Really?
No, I was good.
Yeah,
I was good.
like your recovery, like so what was your mindset about, like, being able to keep performing? Because I was reading these things while I'm getting ready for my trip, where it's like if you start to feel hungry, then you're already in your deficit. Did you have an idea where it's like every 10 miles I'm gonna sip water or anything like that?
It's just a regulation of fear. Like that was my thing. It was like, all right, you're afraid that you're gonna stop. You're afraid you're gonna die of thirst, but it's really your body's gonna be fine.
Yeah,
as long as it's nothing really traumatic, like getting hit or like breaking a bone or like just a sore muscle or anything like that, like, or it's really, really bad. As long as you're at a steady pace, you're going to survive it. Like, yeah. So that was my thing, is like, it took a good month for me to get over that fear of like starving.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm hungry. I don't have any energy and I can't move. And so I would eat enough for like, okay. And it was more of a fear-based thing where I'm like really thirsty, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, it's almost like a placebo. You're like, I'm going to have a sip and like that's going to scratch that itch.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like, and I knew I could survive through a lot of things, and I'm just like, all right, my body, that was why I was like, I reduced my calorie intake like a month into the ride, where I'm like, all right, my body can do.
How many a day? Do you have any idea?
No. How many this time? How much calories did I eat?
Yeah, around.
I'd guess around 4,000 calories.
4,000 a
but
day?
I lost like, I lost like 30 pounds.
I was going to say, like, what was it? What did you start at?
Like 200, a little over 200, and I was like 170 now or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But overall, like, you felt pretty good?
Oh yeah, and I knew I could put on weight as well, because that first month and a half, I was the same weight.
Yeah, still thick.
Yeah, I was just like, all right. And I was like, well, maybe if I lose weight, I'll be able to go faster, because I wouldn't have as much weight on the bike, because I had like an extra 30 pounds on the bike with me. And so I was like, all right, I'll lose this weight. And so I knew I could. I mean, my thing it would have been so easy just to go up to Washington State. And I was like, I'm not even proving a point at that point. It's like...
it's just like...
My point was already made, that I can't make a living on doing this as it is. I have to go out there and make it into this flashy thing and bring people into like this weird carousel that I'm making for myself and like my audience in a way.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to build an audience on this. So like that's where my thought process is now. Is like, all right, how can we make this a flashy thing that like will draw people in? Like
catch all the eyes.
Just catch all the eyes. And it's just, you see it on TV every day and the music, and it's like, just catch the eyes, just catch the wave.
Yeah, as simple as that, but as difficult as that.
No, it's simple as that. It's like, what flashy thing can you do?
So, so you, for doing this trip, like you said that, you proved to yourself, but I feel like that in this world now, with how much saturation it is, it takes longer. It takes longer to start to get noticed. It takes...
Well, you just study what's the biggest thing out there.
Yeah, but I'm talking about as far as like you being out there for a couple months. Like if you're out there for a couple months, and like I said, I would say you were pretty active on your social media.
I wasn't. I wasn't doing it the way I should have been doing it.
Yeah, but if you do the way that technically you should do it and by business standards, I feel like you would lose any sort of like value of your trip. You would just be, because I wanted to take my GoPro, I wanted to take a drone. I wanted to make this great
nice professional. So that's exactly what I was saying. If you're going to college, go for like videography. Like, how do you make the best video? How do you do the best audio?
Yeah, exactly. Graphic design, stuff like that, where you could apply that. But because like back whenever we were in school, they didn't have any of that.
They didn't have any of it.
None of that shit. I remember talking to my mom, like, I'm going to go to school for photography. And she was like, no way. It's just like, was it such a random thought, because social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And now that it's such like this powerful business tool, you realize that
That's how you get to the top.
that's how it is. It's like the more tools you have in your toolbox that you could apply to all this. There's kids that are like, making beats and making these graphics and doing all this shit now.
Yeah.
Because, and you're just like, God, you almost feel like it wasn't fair to a certain extent.
Oh yeah. We're learning the wrong. We're learning the wrong things. We're paying for the wrong lessons, and they're teaching us the wrong lessons the whole way through.
That's what it was. But I mean, I don't know. It's weird because like you have a different time. It's just different now.
I'm excited for the AI.
I know, it's
rapid
wild.
development of ideas. AI, like
it's wild stuff.
You can get branding. You can get
images, anything,
anything you want. And then that's my problem is when you say it's oversaturation, you get AI involved.
That's
in
like
design.
an unlimited saturation.
I mean, who's going to pay for what you need done? Like,
exactly.
That's what I wanted to do in ceramics. I want to take AI, make a 3D model in AI, do a 3D printer out into the world. And then I was like, well, you know what I want to do? I want to do like these really intricate bodies of armor with all this filigree on it. So I was going to 3D model a armor with all the filigree on it.
Yeah.
And then I was going to print it out in a 3D printer. And I was going to make a plaster mold of it and put it in porcelain and like coat it in gold and everything like that. So people that are in this traditional garb in porcelain, and then I look on the internet and it's already there. Like
really?
They already have this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all digital. I mean, it's all digital. Nobody's ever. So I don't think anybody's really made it to the quality.
Yeah, but the idea of it's there.
But they had this one thing. It was like Dolce and Gabbana, and there's these female runway models that are walking down with this beautiful armor on. That's like. But it's not. None of it's real. Not even the female models are real. It's all AI generated.
Oh wow!
The whole visual is AI generated.
Yeah, it's weird. They're making music that's like, they're writing whole Nirvana albums, and it's been dead for 25 years. It's crazy what the possibilities are. I mean, but like you said, I feel like the whole thing of this is like, it's what you make of it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's just what you make of it.
It's almost like we're flying through space and time. They were just flying through space and time.
That's really what it is.
And it's like, all right, and then you're just like, do I have enough income to like have a place to sleep? Have enough to eat, and like other than that, you're just flying through space and time. Yeah,
just hoping that shit's not going to go awry.
Yeah,
hoping we don't get smacked by a meteor or some shit. Yeah. It's definitely. It's crazy because like you spend all this time on the trail, and it's just like a different world where you're in your own reality. Yeah, and I was only on there for 5 days, and I felt like that. I can't even imagine what months are. These guys that we were talking to. At the top of the divide, they were out like 49 days. They started in Seattle. Yeah. They like went from, they rented a truck and they like went to different places, but they were finishing up in DC. The guy lived in DC, and like we were right alongside him the whole rest of the time we were on the CNO. And it was such a cool, it's just like you're in your own world on that trail.
It's beautiful.
And it's like, it's literally like your own world. There's different characters. It's like you're seeing these same people, but then you come back and it's just like, oh, I'm going to go back to work, I guess.
So that's my thing is like, it would be better for me to make a lot of money and then just go out and just be out.
Yeah.
And then come back.
Rather than doing a little trip, come back, make more money, or just even go back to another trip.
Yeah, I don't want any social media presence of me doing this trip. I'm like, I don't want to work while I'm on this trip. Thing. Or if I was going to work while I was doing this trip, I need to make a decent amount.
Yeah, where you could do it at your own way, the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
And appreciate it and not have to feel like, oh, I got to get this footage. I got to remember to think about this and like film this and like, I got to put a tripod here and get a footage of me coming down.
Exactly.
And it's too much because like I want to look at this tree and just think about what I naturally comes to my mind.
Exactly.
And it's like you're destroying your own experience thinking about that. And it's like I took some photos, I took some videos, but like I was super, conscious of not spending time, taking photos on everything.
Thinking of the audience the entire time.
Yeah. And it's like, and I definitely didn't take as many photos or as videos as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Now that like I'm done with it. But in that moment, it's like, I
I
was just
appreciated
present.
it. I
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah.
You know, I was present.
I love
I
that.
saw it.
I love that. Yeah.
And it was like, it felt like, you know, you're part of like a club that, you know, like I experienced it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, just, you weren't going to see the full picture from this little clip that I took anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. And like, I used to be so much more of like posting everything online and like being so like attached to my phone. And, you know, that was just the way I was like 8-9 years ago. But now I just don't care anymore.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And, but like you said, you know, if we want to do, because that's where I am with this. I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years. It's like, I want to pay my bills at this with this podcast. Okay. And the only way for me to be able to do it is to monetize it. And it's like, that's getting sponsors and that's ads and like that shit that I don't want to do, but it's necessary evil for me to be able to get to that point where I can enjoy my life and enjoy this, what I'm doing, and be able to pay bills and doing it, because that's the ultimate, that's the American dream. Yeah. Do what you love and be able to pay your bills doing it. Yeah. And if you want that to happen, that's where you got to conform a little bit. I think that's really what we're getting. Yeah, what we keep coming back to.
Yeah, it's like
we got to get on the.
I'm ready to brand.
Yeah, we got to get on the merry-go-round.
Get some brandy.
Yeah, join the circus a little bit and just like, you know, put on your nose and run around.
Exactly.
I love it though. It's awesome that you got to. Excuse me. I said, I love it, and it's awesome you get to experience that though, and like that time out there. And it's like, so what did you feel like whenever you came back?
I felt okay this time. This time I wasn't out there so far that I wasn't like consciously available for people. This time I'm like, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm ready to go get a job at like 7-Eleven, that type of thing, where it's like, hey, I just need money.
Some normalcy.
Just normalcy. Yeah. If I get like a decent meal where it's like slightly warm or if it's like slightly.
You didn't have any like what I guess like cheat meals?
I did nothing for pleasure. Nothing for pleasure. It was straight just pain the entire way through. I was just like, I'm not doing anything. I'm cutting everything out of like any type of.
Nothing you almost did that you were like, oh, there's something here. I might do that, but then you
No, nothing.
Yeah, so, that you had that in your mind the whole time?
Yeah. The only thing I enjoyed were the views. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, like, were you taking time and like going into the water and shit and like?
Not for myself. It was just like, all right, I'm gonna get to this location. I'm gonna get to this destination, and I think that's another reason why I quit. I was like, I'm gonna do it because I wanted to. Yeah, it was just. I was like, I just did it just to prove a point. So, and I think for myself, I proved it for myself, and I was good enough for me. So I'm like, all right, I'm ready to just make some like knickknacks. I'm just like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make like 1,000 more pots and just sell them for as much as I can and get a largest audience I can and use up as much natural resources as I can. Yeah. I'm just like, you just pollute the world. Just go ahead and make that little plastic keychain. Yeah. And sell it for a dime. I know. And make a million
fidget
of them.
Spinners.
Make a fidget spinner.
Make a million fidget spinners.
Yeah. Put them some online.
Ain't that so crazy?
Get a meal in your tummy.
Yeah. It's wild. Did you have a good meal when you came back?
Yeah, I've been enjoying food when I come back. It's a little bit different. I actually miss being on the road. I'm ready to go back out again in a way. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind. I'm just afraid like I want to be able to sustain it. I could sustain it to Washington State.
Yeah, but to be able to stay out there for, not like indefinitely.
Indefinitely. If I could just be out there indefinitely, just doing my own thing. And I'm like, the fastest way I could do that would be to become independent. Have something going on.
You need to do is you need to figure out a power source and just live stream every second of the day.
That would be do like a Starlink satellite uplink, and you're just like, and then you just have people that are watching the whole time on. What is that? Twitch or something? Yeah,
something like that. There's this dude who hit me up, or I hit up randomly. I saw a newspaper article. He was from. I think Paris, but he sailed from Paris to Pittsburgh. Wow. I don't know why he was in Pittsburgh, but he he read about it or some shit, and he ended up sailing from Paris to Pittsburgh. And he was here for a period of time, but we couldn't link up. We were talking back and forth because I wanted to interview him. Yeah. It was just him, unsupported by himself. I can't remember how long it took him, but he had like a map where people would be able to follow along with it and like a donation link and really the best way to do it is like get media. You got to go and get like articles written. You got to like go hunt out the newspaper and do that footwork for people to like get these eyes on you to be able to do it.
It's about getting those eyes. And then I was the same with the ceramics community. I just wanted to prove to myself that it is just about getting those eyes in the ceramics community. I was like, all right, what are my numbers? That means I can get invited to do these lessons because it'll bring enough people into the class or into the demonstration where it'll actually be like fiscally responsible for the business owner to bring me into these things. So it's like, it's all about popularity. It's all about like getting those numbers up and to becoming like
your notoriety
successful. Yeah. And talking about selling, man, I've always wanted to go to the coast, like ride my bike all the way to the coast, jump on a sailboat, go to like the next continent over.
Yeah, it'd be insane.
Riding, jump on another sailboat. Like if I could get connections to people that would want to do that.
You're ready to go?
Yeah, if they wanted like a what would that be called? A deckhand?
Yeah.
On a sailboat.
First mate?
Whatever. I know, definitely not that. Just a deckhand, just like swapping the decks. Like, if they want something like that, man,
just give me a hot meal. I'll clean
just
stuff.
Tell me where you need to be. I'll ride my bike there. I'll join you over to Europe or over to Asia.
Like, that would be insane to do. So did you ride your bike back here?
No. I ended up taking a plane. I was going to do a train. In fact, a good friend was like, hey, you want take us to Disneyland or Disney World?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't. No. I asked my grandfather if he wanted to go to Disney World, and he didn't want to go to Disney World. So I was like, and I was going to tie that into making like little plastic figure, making my little ceramic knickknacks. I was like, I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
This is all Disney.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Just all like, little knickknacks to just like sell a million little porcelain Mickeys and
exactly
do all that.
So I was going to kind of tie that in at the end of my story where I'm like, I'm going to Disney World and I'm coming back and making knickknacks. But
one day at Disney World isn't going to be more expensive than your entire 2-month trip.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a little over $100 a day. So it's like, so
crazy.
It was way more. So, yeah, for sure.
What, now for you to fly back, what did you have to do with your bike? Did you take it apart?
Yeah, I took the wheels off, put it in a box, like a shipping box that they, bring the bikes or that they ship the bikes in, so I went to a, local bike dealership.
Yeah.
And so they had extra boxes from when they took it out from
whenever they got them in.
Exactly. And then so they gave it to me for free. They were happy to give me one for free. And so I took my bike apart. I wrapped up the gear shift, the cassette and everything like that. Make sure it wasn't going to get smashed or anything like that. And I just placed my bike in the box, taped it up, and sent it through. And then just had it as a
carry-on or not a check bag.
Checked bag, yeah. It was a little bit overweight, so I had to pay extra. But if you had a light bike, it wouldn't be anything more than a check bag.
Yeah.
So whatever a check bag is, like $50 or $40.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
So you can go anywhere in the country with your bicycle for like $40. It's amazing.
Wow. What were your favorite places to go?
Definitely the Smoky Mountains. It's the Great Smoky Mountain. I did not expect that large of climbs or that just the beautiful nature of it. So that was great. I was checking the clay. Like there's so much clay in the Carolinas and into northern Georgia. I was just like, because I was sticking my tent peg into their ground. You just pull up clay like that you could fire in a kiln.
You could use?
Yeah, you could use the clay right out of that ground. So I'm like, northern Georgia. I'm like, they are missing an opportunity. There's so much material there. And they're shipping all this material in from like other countries and everything like that to get a really nice clay body. But there's so much clay along the eastern coast. It's just
natural resource you can use.
Yeah, it's like a lot of natural resources in America.
Wow.
Same with out west. Like, I think they're like, I think that's one reason why we're not into production is like the EPA standards and everything like that, which I'm for. I'm like, I don't want to tear apart the country to get all the natural resources, but it's like we outsourced all our manufacturing. We outsourced all our material values to other countries where they can tear apart their countries and ship it into America, and we can be like the consuming class.
Yeah.
But
typical.
But no, I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So it's like, well, how do you It's like, so for me, it's like, do I want to work with natural clays from around the areas and just pick and find like a mine, or it's like somebody's digging up a foundation of a house, like I could just collect that clay and maybe add a little bit of fluxing agent or add like a little bit of materials that'll allow it to be like a really nice functional clay where I can make cups and bowls and things like that. So I kind of thought about my process and how I would want to make things.
Yeah, whenever
my work. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You have all that time to
think about all that.
Yeah, to think about all this stuff.
It's just so much to think about. It's just like, for me, it's just like find a direction, just go in it.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
Yeah,
you just got to jump into it. That's all there really is to it.
You can't think about the morale.
You can plan about shit all you want, but it never works out the way you think.
If you don't, exactly. You just have to coast with it. That's exactly right. Like like I said before on my last trip, I built so many glass castles or glass castles, and then these intricate designs and everything, and they just all shatter after a certain amount of time. So it's like you're just coasting along with like reality, and you're planning a little bit ahead, but it's like you're not building. I'm not building a glass castle anymore, where I know every little detail that I'm gonna do, because it just doesn't. It never works out.
Yeah, this is basically just like a marble slab that you're carving out now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You have like the material, you have it, you know what you need to do, and now you can just shape it.
Yeah, you shape it. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
It's exciting for what it is. I mean, as an adult, we grow up as kids, and like we have like these crazy ideas what we want to do, and like no cares in the world.
Yeah,
and then you become an adult, and you're like, well, the shit isn't what we thought it would be. Really,
it was not even what we were told it was. They literally glide the entire time.
1,000,000%. And you're just like, well, I mean, we're just kind of trying to figure it out and hoping to like not go insane while we're doing it.
Yeah, it's like, all right, so it's not about you can fill them in. It's not. It's just the dog eat dog world out there.
That's what it is.
It's easy peasy. It's like, oh, okay, so I just have to get to the top of the heap.
Yep, that's what it is for sure. That's the only way to do it. It's like we said, it's just because you have good intentions, I don't put it in. It doesn't fly. Don't put no money in the bank. Good intentions.
Exactly.
Okay, so bike trips.
Yeah.
I mean, you would go to the next one. You were saying you would go up to Washington. You liked it over there?
I love going out west through the deserts, through the mountains out there, I want to go through Colorado. I want to go through Washington, the Glacier National Park. I want to get up into the mountains.
That's where you want to go next?
I want to get into the mountains. I want to get into the desert. Being in the forest and the woods along the East Coast was nice, but for like 2 months of being like in the woods, it was just a little bit too much for me, being damp.
Yeah.
I like the dry weather. I like the scenery of the mountains and the deserts. Yeah. For biking.
No fires at all?
No fires, no.
Yeah, that's wild. Did you use a flashlight this time?
No flashlight.
Again?
I didn't even bring a flashlight this time.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm like listening to these animals outside. I'm like, ooh, something's out there.
Do you have any bear mace?
I did, but I didn't have it out where I would be able to use it.
Yeah, it's just like, might as well just have it. No, you got it at the bottom of the bag. Yeah, you get attacked by a bear.
Yeah, so when I got into the grizzly territory out in Wyoming, or I think it was Wyoming or somewhere a little bit farther out west, I did have my bear spray out, like in my tent, like ready to go. But this time, there's just usually black bears around this area. You just yell and they just run right off.
What's like your mindset as far as like you being on the trail and then like coming into like desolate areas? Like are you showering where you can, or bird bathing where you can? Like stopping at like truck stops, anything?
I wasn't worried about my smell unless if I was going into a place.
Yeah.
Like so, if I was going into a place, I probably only took like 10 showers at the most.
Yeah.
And I was just out there. So I didn't care about my smell. I didn't care about like my hygiene.
Yeah.
I was out there.
Yeah, just out there living.
I was a wild man.
A wild man.
It was
close. Getting close to the earth.
Yeah, getting close to the earth.
That's all it is. Okay. You think there's anything I missed?
No, that's about everything. That's where I am now.
Did a thorough job.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So now we're gonna start churning out knickknacks.
Yeah. So follow me on Instagram, and My website, I'm gonna keep that donation. Hey, feel free to give me free money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you did give me money already, feel free to ask for it back too. 'Cause I will straight up give the money back that anybody gave me. So
I have, I'll put all this, like, you could scroll up and I'll put your website and I'll put, your Instagram and everything on there. People can just click on it. We're not done yet though. So, ending segment that I do with everyone is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions. All right, Desert Island Questions. Whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they starve to death and die. So first category is 3 movies. If you get to pick 3 movies to watch over and over again for the rest of your life, what would they be?
You know what? Being out and I just love nature, so I would probably
movies.
I probably wouldn't even watch a movie. I wouldn't put on a song because I had the ability to put on a song or watch YouTube videos or something.
Yeah.
I never did it. Never cared.
Not once?
No,
Okay.
I just didn't care at all.
That's fair.
But I'm not even worried about movies, man.
All right, that's fine. What about books?
Books, I didn't read a dang thing.
Didn't read a dang thing?
Didn't read a dang.
Is there any books that like if you're on a desert island, you had to have these things.
Yeah.
And you got to pick them. Is there anything that you feel like you would really feel of use?
My favorite book is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This whole series. Loved it.
Never read that.
I've read that like 15. I might have read it 20, 25 times.
Yeah.
It's really good. And then I've read the Wheel of Time series probably 15 times. And those things are long. Like it takes.
You read now?
No, I haven't been reading lately. I would read like scientific literature now if I read anything. I just can't get into fantasy anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I got stuff to do. I got to do stuff. I can't.
I know, it's wild. It's like I almost feel guilty whenever I'm like watching a TV show or anything like that.
I can't do any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just get anxiety as soon as a TV or a radio comes on. I'm like, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you're wasting time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what about, the third category is 3 CDs. I mean, like, if you had to pick music that you loved,
Yeah. Lately, or before I left on this trip, I started listening to Coulter Wall.
Oh, I love it.
I love
Sleeping
that.
on the Blacktop?
Yeah.
Oh, he got the sickest voice.
It's a good voice.
He's only, I think he's super young.
He's young, yeah.
I think he's like 23 or something
Yeah.
like that. And he sounds like he was from like the 50s, just on a cowboy ranch. Like, sounds like he's just been roasting Marlboro Reds his entire life. Man, that dude's a man.
It's good.
Coulter Wall is good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, third category is, the death row meal. So, I know that you were eating sparingly, but like, if you could pick like a last meal, an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert that's your absolute favorite, what is it?
What's that? I love anything that's like a cold salad, but without lettuce. Like
Anapasta?
Anapasta salads.
Oh.
So anything like an anapasta salad. So
Main course.
Something with like a curry rice or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd probably do something like curry.
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that. Yeah, I'm just thinking of things that I like to eat.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a last meal. What about a dessert?
Dessert. Oh, maybe like a apple cake, where it's like you have caramelized apple inside a cake mixture, where it's like a lot of cinnamon around the apples, and
That sounds good.
interesting.
That sounds good for sure. Were you I was listening to that last episode, and you said that one of your moves was to go to the like grocery stores and everything and go to like the clearance section, and you were saying you were buying like Snickers bars and like eating these things.
Yeah.
Were you sticking to like your fundamental like food groups of just like what you were saying, beans, tortillas, like you didn't sway from that at all?
With tortillas and peanut butter. That was what I ate. And then I have these little packets of vitamin water that I started getting. So at Dollar General and a lot of other stores, they're starting to get these electrolyte packets that are, it's like basically a Gatorade in a little pouch, and they're like $2 or $3 for like 8 of them. And last time I went on a bike ride, my nails started getting soft from lack of vitamins and things like that. So this time my nails are nice and like So like I could tell I was getting the right nutrients from the electrolyte.
Yeah, you weren't like deficient.
I wasn't deficient. So I think those electrolyte packets really, not with the caffeine. I cut out all caffeine, all coffee, everything like that.
Oh, really? This whole time?
Yeah. So coffee was like $2 a day. So I was like, I'm not drinking coffee.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So I had these electrolyte packets, and that really helped me out. And then so I did beans, peanut butter, and
trail mix.
Tortillas and a trail mix at the beginning.
Yeah, then you cut it out.
Cut that out, yeah. And then I would start to lose energy really quickly. So I bought things with sugar in it. So I would just eat sugar, yeah.
Wow.
Or like not sugar, but like I'd get like a $1 packet of like something with sugar in it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Second to last question. If you go into a gas station, it's your last choice for a snack. What would it be?
Oh, a snack at a gas station.
Yeah, like if you could pick anything. Like, what's your preferred choice on like a road trip?
I started eating this red licorice, the Aussie red licorice.
Oh yeah,
I like that. That was my go-to sugar intake, and they had it at Dollar General. I think they had a generic brand of it. But
yeah,
but
that's not bad.
I don't
little
know.
licorice.
I was with the sugar. It was like what was on the shelf. I never look for that stuff though, so I don't even know.
Whenever whenever we were on our trip, like the first since New Year's Eve, I haven't drank anything but water and coffee. And on this trip, we're doing all these miles, and he gets like a Coke, and I start drinking like a Coke with him, and it's like a Coke after a long.
With sugar in it.
Yeah.
Oh, it pipes you right up.
Yeah,
you know why they drink that in the old days.
I know.
It's just like it usually got energy.
Because like I started seeing all these people. Like I watched a Tour de France documentary on Netflix, which it's insane. But these dudes are like drinking these little Cokes like in between their trials and everything like that. And I'm like, kind of seems, your body is, you're beating your body to death for 80 miles and it's yearning for something, and you just pour Coke into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the reward you're giving to your body. But that's the best thing that you could give it. You literally feel like you're like boosting yourself up.
It fills your system up with sugar. I mean, like a candy bar and a Coke.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're eating after a stage of
that's what I was doing. I was eating I was drinking a Coke, and I had like some Reese's, and you would feel, on top of the world.
Yeah.
Uncrustable, something like that. You feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Last question. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Alive or dead? Maybe. Oh goodness. I've talked to, I don't even know. I feel content with talking to myself. I really do. I'll just stick in my own brain. It's just the algorithm that I got to figure out. Where I'm like, all right, I feel comfortable doing this. But last time I said it was Nikola Tesla, where he was like, he could do 3D modeling in his head and like figure out like
reverse engineering completely
and things like that.
That's wild. I forgot you said that. I didn't get that far.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. But I think there's a lot of people that can do that. Where it's like, all right, these are the principles of it. Maybe like somewhere way back in time, like to figure out like why they engineered like it from a different civilization, like South America, where they had these Mesopotamia, or they had these huge cities, just to figure out like the engineering of a city.
Yeah, how they did that back then.
Just how they did that back then. Maybe an engineer back then.
I mean, think how crazy it is. Like the pyramids, like they said some of them rocks used in the pyramids are from quarries over 500 miles away.
Yeah.
And you think about
engineers
that.
back then.
You think about that and you're like, that right there is enough to just like spiral where you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, whole civilizations.
It's like, how did this happen
they're
back
saying
then?
in South America, there's cities of 40,000.
I know, it's wild. And
it was more than that. It was like 200,000.
We're coming across this stuff now, and it's like literally redefining on like what we thought humans were and like history was, and you're just like, this is crazy. And then on top of all this, while things are going on, we're talking about how wild the world is nowadays. They're just telling us aliens are real, and we're all just brushing over that.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's fine. It's okay.
It's like all this stuff in politics is happening. Aliens are real. There's a picture of a UFO right there, and everyone's like, they just don't care.
Well, I like those Neolithic. I like the architecture, because it's like that's real. I know that's real.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we're in a nice house. We got central heating or central air.
Yeah.
Just living a nice, comfortable life. And it's like, after being out in the woods for a decent amount of time, I'm like, that sounds real nice to me. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so
You know?
how just literally talking about the infrastructure of the United States. I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it's wild for sure. Then you get to poke into these small areas on your voyage where you're like, you know, like Harper's Ferry or something like that, and you see like those areas and like what it looked like back in that time a little bit. And that was like not even that long ago, but still so crazy. Like they show you what like, you know, a pub looked like back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, definitely a wild place.
So yeah, like different commerce routes and things like that. And like through Georgia, there was a highway that was moved like a mile.
Oh, really?
A mile east. And I'm going down this old highway. So there's all these old highway towns that are just dilapidated one after another. So they're abandoned towns, one after another.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, and it's just because of one highway shift, just like a mile away. And so there wasn't that commerce. And it's just like a network of like, where the commerce is going, where is the money coming from, where is it going, like
and like what dies out whenever that energy is not even touching it.
Yeah,
it's weird. There's a documentary we watched about this whole it was like basically like Walt Disney World kind of, and I think it was in New Orleans. They built this entire park and it was like crazy, and after like a year there was a hurricane and it like destroyed some of the infrastructure and they just shut it down,
just shut the whole thing down.
And it's like they put all this billions of dollars into this park and it's just like abandoned.
Yeah,
like, and it wasn't even used for a year, I don't think.
Yeah,
it might have not even been open, but it's just crazy to think about something like that. Where
some strange population shift, just anything.
It's wild, dude.
It's wild. I love thinking about it. I love like, because that's what I was doing. I was looking at storefronts, looking at businesses, looking at how to revive a town.
We all don't mean shit, dude. It could be here in a second. It could be gone in a second.
That's a good point.
It's a good point. All right, let's end it on that. I appreciate you being here with me. I appreciate you reiterating your journey and talking to me about what you wanted to do.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate talking to you. I'm excited you got to get out on a bike and like go. It's
a little taste of it because like I want to do it again. I already want to do it again.
It's impossible not to want to do it again. Like I'm like a week I'm like a week or two home and I'm like, all right. Like, yeah, like whenever we came home,
exactly. It's like whenever I came home, you know, I was 2 days. I'm like, man, it's nice to be able to jump in a pool if I want, sleep in my bed and everything. But then it's like, you know, it's beautiful to be able to wake up and be like, all right, let's just get 60 miles today. You know, if we get any more, it'll be great. You know, we're gonna go at our own pace, and it's just like you don't worry about shit.
You're watching the sun go up, watching the sun go down.
It's beautiful. There's something so peaceful in that. But then you come home. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's nice to sleep in a nice bed, air conditioning. But then on Monday, I got to go to work and, you know, try to collect some more coins for my piggy bank so I don't, you know, get put out in the middle of the world. Okay. Everyone else that's listening, actually take a second and put your Instagram, your website out, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's Dacey Haughwout, Dacey Haughwout, Haughwout. So that's my Instagram handle and also my website. It's daceyhaughwout.com and Dacey Haughwout on Instagram.
And you could scroll up and you can just click right there and everything will be right below us. Wherever you're listening to it, you have links for his website, links for his Instagram. Follow him and keep along with his journey.
Yeah, let's get this let's get these pop.
Yeah, let's get the followers. Yeah. Let's get these followers up there. No, but I appreciate it. Everyone else that's listening, appreciate it as usual. Each and every week, we're back with another great guest doing great things in our city. Thank you for listening. Call you right back.